This free agent feels like exactly what the Red Sox are looking for in their bullpen overhaul. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Red Sox bullpen was simply not very good this year. In fact, they had the 26th best bullpen ERA in the entire sport, just 6 spots away from being the worst bullpen in Major League Baseball. And if the Red Sox want to compete in 2025, they are going to need to improve that bullpen this off season. And there's one guy in particular that stands out above the rest that could absolutely transform this Red Sox bullpen. So that's exactly who we're talking about in today's video. We're going to be looking at who this player is, why they fit so well with the Red Sox, what it would take to get him here, and ultimately whether or not this is something the Red Sox should consider. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. The player that I believe the Red Sox should absolutely look into bringing onto this Red Sox team is left-handed reliever Tanner Scott. Now, this isn't some groundbreaking discovery that I made all on my own. No, this is a pretty obvious solution to the Red Sox problem, considering he is one of, if not the top relief talent on the open market this year, and considering the fact that it's already been floated that the Red Sox are possibly interested in his services. In a podcast by Chris Cotillo called Fenway Rundown, he mentioned that there has been some talk that the Red Sox want to sign/add a high-octane left-handed reliever like Tanner Scott, which would make all the sense in the world. Tanner Scott is coming off of probably his best season in Major League Baseball up to this point. Over the course of the year between the Marlins and the Padres, Tanner Scott had just a 1.75 ERA in a pretty decent amount of innings, too. He had 72 innings on the season. That's a guy not only keeps runners from scoring, but also can be used a whole lot, which are two fantastic things for this Red Sox bullpen. His FIP was a bit higher at 2.92, but still, that's a really solid number. He had a 1.125 WHIP and a 252 ERA plus, meaning that he was about 152% more productive than the average reliever in baseball. I would say that's some pretty good production, but hey, that's just me. And I get even more excited about who Tanner Scott could be with this Red Sox team when you look at his Baseball Savant page, because there is a ton of really deep red here. He was the best in baseball when it came to average exit velocity and pretty darn close to the best in baseball in hard hit percentage. He was in the 86th percentile in strikeout rate and the 88th percentile in ground ball rate. Basically, this year, he not only had good statistics on paper, but on the mound, he was missing a ton of bats, and when he wasn't missing bats, he was generating the best weak contact basically in the entire sport, and a lot of it was on the ground. Clearly, this is something the Red Sox could use, but even outside his statistics, Tanner Scott could play a really big role in really developing this bullpen into one of the better bullpens in Major League Baseball. And the big reason for that is because the Red Sox had a bit of a left-handed reliever problem this season that loved to rear its ugly head at some of the biggest moments. The Red Sox actually had a ton of left-handed relievers in the bullpen this year. The biggest one obviously being Brennan Bernardino, who was absolutely fantastic for half of the year and then absolutely crumbled to pieces in the other half of the year. Joely Rodriguez was with this team for points this season. That never really worked out for the Red Sox. Cam Boozer spent a lot of time with the Red Sox and was actually pretty solid statistically. The problem with Cam Boozer is that in high leverage situations, he tended to fall apart, and statistics back that up. This season, in high leverage situations, opponents had a 946 OPS, which was way above league average, and they were hitting .318 against him. He was solid in medium and low leverage situations. The problem was he just could not handle those high pressure situations, which is a obvious big problem for the Red Sox when you don't have Brennan Bernardino. Bailey Horn made some appearances for the Red Sox this year. He simply did not look all that great, and Zach Penrod finished off the season with this Red Sox team. He looked pretty solid, but that is a very small sample size to put all of your faith in when it comes to left-handed relievers. It was essentially a merry-go-round of left-handed relievers for the Red Sox this year, and what it led to was a whole lot of inconsistency in this bullpen. Bringing in Tanner Scott not only gives you a really solid statistical pitcher, it also puts an end to that merry-go-round. I think the biggest thing with the Red Sox bullpen this year was simply the fact that they just did not have that consistency. There is actually a lot of talent in the Red Sox bullpen coming into 2025. 2025, especially when it comes to young players. Weiser was solid this year. 19 of his last 20 appearances this season were scoreless. Zach Penrod, Luis Guerrero, they look solid. Justin Slayton looks to take another step forward. Whitlock should be back in the bullpen. You've got guys like Hendricks and Fulmer coming off the IL, and there is a lot of talent there. The problem is none of those guys are guarantees. And if the Red Sox really want to improve their bullpen, getting guarantees or as close to guarantees as you can get, right? You're never going to be able to get a certainty in a player. That's just simply not how baseball works, but as close to a guarantee as you can get really could take this bullpen to another level. And I think Tanner Scott could do exactly that, especially from the left-hand side, which again, the Red Sox struggled with it in 24. They also struggled a lot with that throughout the course of the last couple of years. This isn't the first time the Red Sox have been lacking a solid left-handed reliever. So the fit is absolutely there. Any way you slice it, Tanner Scott would make a ton of sense for this Red Sox team. But that then raises the question, what is it going to take to get Tanner Scott here? And are the Red Sox going to be willing to do that? But before we look into that question, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into answering that question. The clear biggest thing standing in the way of a combination of the Red Sox and Tanner Scott is obviously the money that he's most likely going to make on this year's free agent market, considering, again, he's probably the best talent in terms of the latest season that's going to be available. According to Spotrac.com, this year, he produced an estimated $16.3 million in value, and they expect him to get a contract based on calculations of other similar players who have entered free agency or signed extensions of 4 years, $60 million, or about $15 million a year. That's a pretty lofty price to pay for a reliever. And to make matters worse, the relief pitching pool this offseason in terms of free agents isn't exactly fantastic. There are some very interesting names on here, but like I said, Tanner Scott feels like he's the clear number one choice when it comes to free agent relievers, which means a whole lot of teams are going to be interested in Tanner Scott's services, which also may mean for the Red Sox, in order to actually get Tanner Scott onto this team, they're either going to have to overpay for his services or they're going to have to add on years that they may not be incredibly comfortable adding on. Basically, in my opinion, the only way the Red Sox are going to be able to bring in a guy like Tanner Scott is if they end up going out of their comfort zone. And is that something the Red Sox are going to be willing to do for a left-handed reliever? And the honest answer to that question is I have absolutely no idea. Now, I know a lot of people are immediately going to write this off and say, yep, no, price tag's too high. The Red Sox aren't going to pay it. And I can't argue with that considering what the Red Sox have looked like, especially this last offseason when it came to actually going that extra mile. They seem to avoid that at all costs with basically any of the players on their team. But what I will say is that while I understand the track record, the history isn't pointing towards the Red Sox spending any money this offseason, they don't really have an excuse not to at this point. Last couple of off seasons, they've given excuses as to why they have not paid up to the point that we want them to pay, especially in free agency. However feeble those excuses may be, they were there. This year, they don't have any excuses. The only thing that they could do at this point is truly invest in this product because there's no other avenues for them to take. Now, they could make an avenue, I guess. They could just simply say, we are done investing in this product like we've done over the last couple of years, but that would essentially be PR suicide. They back themselves into a corner a little bit, and at some point, you are going to have to invest in this product, and I think 2025 could be that year. So I'm not totally writing off the idea that the Red Sox spend big money this offseason, and if they do, Tanner Scott could be a perfect addition. Now, the Red Sox have done a similar type money-wise contract in the past. Most recently, it was for Kenley Jansen, and I know we've had our issues with Kenley, and I know the ending of Kenley's tenure with the Boston Red Sox wasn't exactly fantastic, fantastic. But overall, I think that contract worked out for this team. He finished with a 3.44 ERA, a 3.30 FIP, a 1.185 WHIP, and a 1.28 ERA plus across 2 seasons, as well as 56 saves for the Red Sox. Does that make them a bit more comfortable going the extra mile to get a guy like Tanner Scott? I don't know. It might, right? If they were confident, they were like, yeah, that Kenley contract was worth it. Tanner Scott's younger than Kenley. He just had a better season than Kenley's had in the last 5-6 years. What if we bring in Tanner Scott? I feel comfortable doing that. I don't think it's impossible to say that that's going to be part of the equation. All of this, anything we talk about in terms of free agents is going to come down to whether or not the Red Sox actually invest, and that's exactly what's going to happen with Tanner Scott. Are they willing to go that extra mile to acquire these players that they simply weren't willing to do, especially last offseason, but even off seasons before that? That's the big question of the offseason, and that's the big question with Tanner Scott. But if they are willing to go the extra mile to really sort of put their feet on the table and say, yep, we are in this to actually compete in 2025, Tanner Scott feels like an absolutely perfect fit. Not only is he one of the game's best relievers, he is a perfect fit for where the Red Sox need help the most when it comes to bullpen additions. If they're truly looking to overhaul this bullpen, getting a guy in here like Tanner Scott is a big, big step in doing so. So I truly believe the Red Sox need to get a guy like Tanner Scott or even AJ Minter, who we're going to talk about in a separate video. But man, getting him on this team would do wonders for this bullpen in probably their biggest pain point in 2024. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about this? What do you think about the possibility of getting Tanner Scott? Do you like the idea? Do you not like the idea? Do you think the Red Sox will be willing to go the extra mile this offseason to acquire any player of Tanner Scott's caliber? And what would you give Tanner Scott in terms of money if you were the Boston Red Sox? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you enjoy this type of content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.